Hi, everybody. We're back. We're ready to reconvene. I believe we have at least over half of our group that we started out with. So as I was saying, we're at 3, delegate agency closeout procedures, and I'm going to turn this part over to B. I stopped at C, provide a community resource list to families during parent meetings.
And as Earlene said, the delegate agency closeout procedures are very much like when you close out a site or a classroom. But there are certain elements that we want to see in. Item C, a community resource list. You need to provide this to the parents at the meeting. And in the community resource list, you're going to be providing information on other resources that you feel they may need. Resources such as other Head Starts in the areas, DFSS Head Starts, as well as other community child care providers. Item D, invite the mental health consultant to the parent notification meeting. This is very important. You're going to have parents who may not really understand what we're doing and why the agency is going out. So this is a time when you need all the available resources at your disposal. And so I'm saying that your mental health consultant can be very helpful to you during this time. Item E, convene an in-house staffing between the teachers. This is very important. Teachers also need to be informed on where these children are going. And in the case of children with special needs, where they're going, will they be receiving those services on the other end? Skipping down to item H, which is transition plan. We have a form that is available that talks about the transition of children. So we want to just briefly go over that with you. All right, because the reason I want to show this is because you know that transition is something big that we use when kids are going from one classroom to the next, one activity to the next, and as in this case, from one agency to another. So this child transition form is going to look different than what FSWs are used to putting together on a child. But what this one is going to address is all the items that you see that Earlene is going to go over with you in a little more detail. But basically, this is a transition form from one agency to the next so that we know and we ensure that those services follow the family. All right. Procedure. Item I. The other thing that you're going to provide to the parents are the original copies of the health, developmental, dental, all of those records, the original forms. You're going to give that to mother within 7 business days. As you know, this is very important to send this information with the families so that they can register at the next site. So those are the major differences between agency closeout and what we expect you to do with classroom or site. If you have any questions, please type them in.
Okay, so we stopped at I. So the scenario is
we have a couple questions.
You've begun to either close your classroom or close your site, or you're closing your agency. We have identified where we're going to send those parents based on what's in the 2-mile area where families can still continue to get services. And so you will have your conversation with your parents, and you will arm your parents with these documents so that it becomes a very easy and smooth transition. You will notice in this information it does not include any of the HSEVs, which we will have a conversation about at a later time. Again, make sure that you understand as an agency that these decisions are made with the board, and the board should be channeling this information to the policy committee, to the parent policy committee, so that everyone knows exactly what is going on and why it is occurring. And this information should be captured in the board minutes. Again, we talk about J, K, and L is the same process. So let's go down to the to 4. No, I'm being directed to answer some questions. The question says...
I'll say the question. When you say closeout, what exactly does that mean? And is this for all agencies?
So when we say closeout, we're saying that you, for whatever the reason, a scenario could be that you can no longer fiscally operate a classroom because it's not feasible. Just say, for whatever reason, you don't have your funded enrollment, and so instead of you being able to consistently maintain 17 or 20 in the classroom, you're coming up with 9 because your community demographics has changed. And so now you must close out your classroom. So we seek to find other areas for those 9 children that you have enrolled, and we seek to make sure that this decision was made by the board, the parent policy committee, and the parents have been informed, and we transition those families to other programs either in your agency or to an agency in your surrounding area. When we talk about closing out a site, it could be for the same reason. It's no longer fiscally sound to run that agency. You don't have the money to pay staff to continue to provide good programming, and so you decide to close out the site. And then, of course, if you, whatever the reasons, you decide to close out an agency. We are arming you with this information so that you understand and are aware of the process. We've always had the process in place, and we've usually shared it with agencies who were in these situations. But for best practice, we are sharing it with all of you, so in case this is your situation, you will know what to do.
Elaine Parker, one of our colleagues here, would like to pass on some information. I think Arlene must have mentioned earlier, but she wanted to advise all the attendees that if there is ongoing discussion about the closure of a classroom, sites, agency, this information should be shared with the policy committee / parents as well. It should not come as a surprise to them when they are informed of the decision to close. It should be reflected in the policy committee minutes. Thanks, Elaine.
Thanks, Elaine. I think I covered that for you, though. But just in case, we're good. And it's in this information as well. If you have any questions about what your board or your policy committee should do, you can reach out to Elaine Parker. She's the supervisor for program governance, and she can give you further guidance. For parents, information about how you should proceed with them and the type of support they should get, you should reach out to B. Nichols. She will provide that information to you, and you can also use me as a resource. Closeout usually lands in safe environments, but we make sure that all the areas that need to be involved are able to give you the support that you need should you find yourself in this situation. So I'm going to move on now to 4, which is the overall closeout procedures, and it's basically the same thing. We talk about you convening your staff. It's very important that staff, along with your board and your policy committee and your parents, it's important they know, because as you can well imagine, we are talking about people's lives. And we're talking about also trying to make sure that our families continue to receive quality services. And so we ask for a body of information. We want you to provide your board and policy committee minutes to us. We want to make sure that we can assist our staff so that whatever HR support they need, we can assist them with that. Your files, whether it is a agency closeout or a classroom closeout, or we need to have all files boxed up, and they are to be retained for a period of 5 years. And so we can discuss that further should we come into that situation. But that is a requirement by the feds that all of those documents are stored and kept in an area where they are sound, safe, and it's a confidential area, because there's a lot of documentation on there that we would not want anyone just to be able to have. Now let me talk about the data unit, because at the end, when you begin to close out all of these classrooms or your agencies, you want to make sure that all the children are terminated as of the last day of service. So if you are projected to close on the 30th and you still have bodies in the program, then on the 30th or the 29th, whenever you no longer are providing services, you should terminate all of the children. You should discontinue family services as of the last day of service. We want you to inactivate any of your HR files in COPA, and we want you to inactivate all user access in COPA. Now there are a few things that we want you to be mindful of as it relates to the data. Generally, when we get the announcement in-house, we begin to shut down the system, and we identify one user as the person who we will be dialoguing with and who will be working in COPA to make sure that these things occur. Because there is other documentation that we need to have prior to closing down altogether. As it relates to transitioning all families, we expect that 100% of all those families who were enrolled in your program, we know where they are. And so I will go over that with you with our transition form that Bea had spoke about earlier. And then in case there is an emergency closure, say less than a 14-day notice, we will immediately come in and assume the responsibility for implementing all of these steps so that we can ensure that documents as well as families as well as staff are given the support that they need to receive programming. Can you go to the transition form?
I got a question for you. I'm sorry, can you repeat when these documents will be sent and where to be sent to? The question's from Christy Stinson.
Okay. I'm not really sure what you mean when you say these documents. If you're talking about
the email?
The
Yeah, we're talking about the email.
Right. Okay. If you're talking about the closeout procedures and the forms that we're getting ready to go over with you, by tomorrow afternoon, Victor will send out these documents to your CSD email, and so that you'll have them to download for future reference. So you need to check with your EDPDs because it'll be sent to their emails. So I'm going to call up the. Okay.
Okay, thanks. You're welcome, Christy.
Go to the transition form there. No, yeah. Okay, so this is our child transition form. And as you can see, the information is up there. We're asking for the agency to cite. And then there's other information we ask you for, your funded number, the number of children we fund you for, your total enrollment at the time of the decision to close. And then there's information we're asking you for. We're asking you for the child's name, the ID number, the program model that the child was enrolled in, the transition date, the date that you sent this documentation with the family, the location where the child is going, and then any follow-up. And this helps with that 100% of verification that I spoke about. We want to know, what the issues were, what the family status is. Was the child referred? Did the child have a medical disability, mental health, whatever services that need to be followed up on, we need you to address that.
All right, so let me just add another thing onto this and give you an example. We know that there are families that you may try to reach through a meeting, and maybe 60% of your families come to the meeting. But the other 40% of your families, you tried to contact them maybe by phone, but you haven't been able to get through. We want to make sure that 100% of those families that were enrolled, you have had some contact with in order to ensure that their children are going to the next place and that these services will continue.
So let me start with the far right side of the form. We're asking you to give us an IEP or IFSP. So if a child that you're transitioning has this document, you need to check that. And you need to also note that next to the follow-up. So the child had an IEP, the child had an IFSP. Any education progress report, we need you to check, we need you to write that in. The original dental, the physical, and the HSEV form. Now this is a new form that we are using that will assist our agencies that currently have Head Start programs from recreating a new HSEV. And let me show you what that form looks like. Yes, it's returning child eligibility form. And again, you will get these documents. So what we're saying is a child came to you last year and the child was eligible for Head Start. All you need to do on the other end, and you are the agency now that's receiving that child, okay? This form is a verification that that child was eligible for Head Start services. So we don't, as a new agency, we do not need to create a new HSEV. This form verifies that that child was in Agency A and that child was eligible and enrolled in a Head Start program, and that child is now coming to me for services. I don't have to redo any eligibility, Head Start eligibility. I don't have to do that. This form satisfies you from you creating a new HSEV. We also have instructions that go along with this form, which will make sure that you get this information so that if you have any questions, you can read through it, and then you can always contact me, or you can contact Craig, or you can contact Jennifer Santana. Or you can contact any of your ORCIA support service coordinators. Okay? Let's go back. Let's go click down the bottom. The next form that I want to bring your attention to is the PIR agency closeout form. Whoever is the person that's what do you mean? There it is. Whoever the person is that's responsible for inputting the data in your agency, this is the information we need to capture. This is information that's in the PIR that we don't have at the time of your closeout. So we would want you to go through here and complete this information. You will receive all these documents again when you notify us that you are closing out your program. And it's more so dedicated to agencies that's closing a site or closing their agency out altogether when you use this particular form. All right, so let me just recap. Internally, you will notify us immediately after your board has had their conversation and they have notified your parent policy committee. You will notify Vanessa Rich. You will copy Lakeisha Smart-Pennings as well as Madeline Hania. Then you'll be notified from us as to a day that will come out, and we will begin to have conversations about your inventory as well as your children and how we're going to assist you with the closeout process. We will expect certain documentation from your governance board. We will expect to see that you have family files and records beginning to be boxed up and stored correctly. The expectation is that you will have parent meetings, however many it takes, so that parents can get the support that they need to transition their children out. You will have data responsibility in terms of closing out your COPA. We will look at your transition plans as it relates to transitioning families as well as your staff. And then, we will do things with your URSEA transition form to make sure these families have the support that they need, and that whatever community resources are available, we are also accessing those resources. Again, if you have any questions, you can contact me, Earlene Alexander, preferably by email, or B. Alexander. Or if you have governance questions, you can shoot those to Elaine Parker. I'm sorry, B. Nichols. I'm giving her a whole new name. Okay? I apologize.
You are on a roll.
On a roll. Any more questions? Comments? All right, well, want to thank all of you for giving us your time this afternoon. Again, you can access any one of us should you have any questions or concerns. Thank you and have a great afternoon. Uh-oh, sorry, we have questions.
Do we follow the site closeout procedures if a community partner wants to terminate? Christine Navarro.
Good question, Christine. As it relates to your site closeout, yes, a partner site, yes, you must inform us that you're closing out a site, because we want you to look at your partner sites like you would your site. What we don't do is to come in and remove inventory. Most of those agencies are private entities. Whatever fiscal support that you have given them, just say you have some creative curriculum kits and you want to pick those things up and you feel like those are things that you want, you can clearly manage that. Whatever you have in that contract with that partner, you should follow. But we will follow the steps as it relates to data, because those children should be terminated. Those we should look at discontinuing those services as whatever the last day is. Whatever staff you may have over there in terms of HR files should be inactivated, as well as any users that you may have in COPA. Now, you also want to be mindful of transitioning those families, because those still are Head Start children. You can have conversations with those families. And so if they would like to move to another Head Start program in the area, you should assist those families with that possibility.
We have another question from Kim. Hey Kim, I noticed you're on the line, so I'm gonna unmute you. Kim Johnson.
Yes. Hello.
Hi Kim, you can go ahead with your question. We can hear you.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to know, is this just in regards to if you're closing out a program? This has nothing to do with the PIR for existing programs? I caught the information about the PIR, so I was just trying to make sure I didn't miss anything.
No, what I'm saying.
Can you hear me?
If you're closing your agency, and you're closing if you're closing your agency and you're closing a site, we may need information that won't be captured in your PIR. This is for
I see.
that are closing altogether, because then there's information.
Oh.
And so these.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't understand the purpose of the webinar then. I misunderstood. Okay.
You're fine. Other people may have the same question. So when you're closing your site, we really need this information so that we can add it to our PIR. So that's
okay. Gotcha.
PIR report form is important.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Kim. Thanks for logging on.
Okay. Bye bye. Okay. Bye bye.
We have another question from Lucy Arias. Do we have to provide the original HSEV to the parent and we keep the copy?
Okay, so that's a good question. No, you don't. What we have produced is a snapshot at the time that the child was enrolled. So we do have that information. What I showed you was an eligibility form. So in a minute, everyone in DFSS will have this HSEV transition form. And so when a child comes to you from another program, only thing that you need to do is complete this form, and that will suffice as an HSEV because that child is already eligible. Bring that form. The child is already eligible. Now, you can, just for best practice, that's it. No. You can, just for best practice, you can send this form with the child so that the child can have that information upon arrival to your program. So let me bring you I'm going to bring the form up again. This child.
Return child?
Yeah. This is a form. So you have this form with you. You can give that form to the child when you give the original physical, dental, if the child has an IEP, IFSP, all of those documents you can give to the parent to take with them. But no, please do not create a new HSEV.
I have another question here from Rosemary Loving, and she is from LSSI. Why are these forms being discussed at this time? Are there agencies closing, or is there other information that we should know about in terms of the current climate and viability of agencies in general?
We are sharing this information because we had been sharing this information on an as-needed basis for those agencies that were closing out a classroom, if they were closing out a site, if they were closing out their agency altogether. And so those agencies were the ones that were privy to this information. So we want to just broaden the knowledge to all of our agencies about how to close a program, period. I do understand that you probably understand that we've lost many agencies. There are some agencies that are no longer with us for whatever the reason. But we want to make sure that should something happen amongst any of our current agencies, you understand the process and you are armed with information before instead of after.
Okay, I think that's If you have any more questions, just type them in the question box or the chat box. You can raise your hand and you can try to unmute your mic. Remember, we have recorded the second half of this presentation for those that didn't log back on. So it'll be up on our YouTube page, hopefully by the end of the week, along with these documents, so you'll be able to download them from there. Okay, it doesn't look like we have any more questions.
All right. Okay, so thanks again. We appreciate your time. If you have any questions or concerns, please let us know. Bye.